Hey, welcome back. This is PHP test-driven development, advent of code for 2017 with PHPSpec. If you just finished watching the last video that I recorded a few minutes ago, we got through part one of day one, got our gold star, and now we're going on to go to day two to see what, or not day two, but day one, part two, to see what they want. So in this case, it says we got 50% through. We got a star, but instead of looking at the next digit, we want to consider the digit halfway around the circular list. So essentially, like whatever our index is plus half of the length of the string, I think, is probably what we're looking at. So as an example, we get 12, 12 gives us 6 because 1 matches 1 and 2 matches 2, and then the next one comes back and matches the first one, and the last two matches the first one, because again, this is a big circular list. So we're going to take the exact same approach. I'm going to do it in the same files in the same class. We've already got a class created that takes the sequence, but we're going to add a new method to get the semicircle sum, I suppose. So our first example of that one is going to be 12, 12, should give us a 6. And let's go back in here. So now that we're coming in, and I have more than one method in here, it seems that these tests are not named really great because there's no distinction between these and our other one. So before I even get started here, I'm in a green situation, so this would be a perfectly fine time to change the name of a bunch of tests so that they make more sense. And right now what I'm going to do is just add in for get sequence sum, and copy that, and I'm going to add that to all of these other tests like so, and there we go. So now they're distinct from our new tests. Let's go back to one cursor and let's add in our new examples. So it will return 6 for circle sequence 1, 2, 1, 2, right? So we'll say this be constructed with 1, 2, 1, 2, and this get circle sequence sum should be 6. That's a tongue twister right there. So if I run it in, if I save it, we get a failure. If I run it in Storm, we get a failure. Because the thing doesn't exist. So let's open up the command line, run the run again, create our new method, and we'll go over here, and now we've got a new method on here. I'm going to throw in int, and we're going to start writing some logic. So sum is going to start out as 0 like before, and we'll do return sum. So at least now we've got a it's matching our signature, which before we would get problems with that. So now instead of old letter is equal to the sequence of this thing or using a for each, I kind of feel like maybe we go through each letter individually using an index, and we calculate what it is. Like we calculate what the midway point is, right? Except for right now, yeah, this is baloney. We're not doing this. To start off with, right? 6. There's our answer, and we run it. It's all happy. That committed. So we have working tests again, but obviously they're stupid and broken. But that's okay because we have more examples. So 1, 2, 2, 1 should produce 0 for this circle sum. So we're going to make another test. It will return 0 for circle sequence, what was it, 1, 2, 2, 1, right? And this be constructed with 1, 2, 2, 1, and the sum for the circle sequence should be 0, not 9, 0. And fail sauce, right? And our other place failed, and that is good. That's what we want. So now, instead of just saying, well, we're going to jump right into it and get everything done with one test on here, we can't do that if we're following TDD correctly, right? There could be bugs, right? If I had implemented this thing and said, oh, you know what, it just looks like it's a total of all of the digits, I would have gotten 6, which would be the right answer for this, but I'd also get 6 for this, and that's the wrong answer. So having these two tests in here are an indication that we have more work to do, especially since we have a broken one. So now let's go back to where I was, which is a little bit of jumping ahead, but we're getting back on track now. So we're going to say, starting at 0, our midpoint, or our midpoint index, should be half of the length of the string ahead. So we're going to say, we'll say half add equals strlen of the sequence divided by 2. And we could use the int div function on here, but it did say back in the back on the Advent page that we're always going to end up with an even amount, which means it'll divide evenly, so we don't necessarily need to bother with an int div on this. But we've got our number for how much we're going to add, and even this, you know what, even this is a little bit jumping ahead, so let's do this. We're going to say half, we're going to say it's 2, right? We've, so far, all of our tests say if we skip ahead by 2 and do the work, we should be okay. So let's do that. So we're going to say for index equals 0, index is less than the string length of the sequence. And this is the EA plugin telling me that why am I calculating string length all the time? So what I can do is reduce that by pushing over this index max into the initializer part. Some of you may have never seen a for loop with multiple initializers, but that's legit. It works. And then we're going to increment that so we can loop through all of the things. And we're going to grab the letter from that. So we'll call it current letter. And that's going to be from sequence of index. And then our buddy letter on the other side of the circle, I'm going to call buddy letter. Apparently hit my caps lock. Buddy letter is equal to this sequence of index plus sum, or plus 2, right? Because again, like, I know it's wrong, we know it's wrong, you're looking at this watching, it's wrong, but right now our tests are all 4 digits long, so adding 2 should work, right? Except for it's not going to. Some of you know why already, but when I run it, I get uninitialized string offset 4, right? Because I've run off the edge of my index. So what I can do to fix that is mod that by 4, right? Which means I'm going to add that number up, and then I'm going to divide it by 4, and the answer in here is going to be the remainder, which has the nice property of essentially turning stuff back into a circle, right? So as soon as we get to index 4, 4 divided by 4 is 0, so index of 0. When we get to 5, 5 divided by 4 is 1, remainder 1, so we keep the remainder with the mod operator right here, and we're back to index 1. And so it allows us to add these numbers and then make sure that they end up in our proper range. So we have expected integer 6 but got integer 0. That's okay. because what it means now is like we're not doing anything with sum. But look, we got this test to pass. That's great. Where it wasn't passing before, I think. So now we need to see. Let's check. Is the current letter equal to its buddy letter? So if current letter is the same as buddy letter, then sum plus equals, and it doesn't matter which one because they're the same, but sum equals current letter. We run that, and now we should have finally gotten another commit, which we did. Great, awesome. Now that's all fine, and our program is done and works as long as our sequence is only 4 characters long. So let's get another example. So 1 2 3 4 5 or 1 2 3 4 2 5 gives us 4. So I have a feeling that this is probably not going to work so well in our current algorithm, and that's totally fine. That's what we want. So it will return 4 for circle sequence of 1 2 3 4 2 5. We'll construct it with that number, and we'll say this get circle sequence should be 4, and we'll run it, and it fails, right? So we're failing because we're only looking 2 ahead instead of following our specification that said we need to jump ahead by half of the circle, right? So let's figure out what that is. Again, it was jumping ahead before, so we'll say half circle, I don't know, whatever. Strlen of sequence divided by 2, and again we could do int div, and that's where this part comes in, right? So I'm going to back this out real quick and show you a trick in case you aren't aware in PHP Storm. But what I'm going to do is say, let's pull this out as a variable. So instead of a hard-coded 2, we're going to pull out that as a variable, and we'll say this variable is halflen, and that's fine. But I don't want it there. I don't want to calculate it in the loop. I want to calculate it outside the loop. So I'm just going to move it up and change it now to an actual calculation like we had just a second ago. So sequence divided by 2. Let's run it, and everything should still be passing except for the last one, because we're not quite done. So still exact same output, and we have this other magic constant, right? Well, this other magic constant is our str length, right? So we're going to make that into a variable, and we'll say length, right? And we're going to move that up as well. And length is equal to strlen of sequence, right? Which now means that this chunk right here is redundant, right? And we could take half length is equal to length divided by 2. Actually, before I do that, let's see if that works. That works, great. And that got us a commit. So now I can start refactoring, right? We don't want to refactor until we've got green working tests. In this case, they're finally working. So we'll save that and run. We're good. And all along the way now we're getting commits, which is awesome. So let's see if we have any more examples. So 1 2 3 1 2 3 produces 12. Let's make sure that we're working with that. We'll go back to the tests and say public function it will return 12 for circle sequence of that, and this be constructed with that, and this get circle sequence sum should be 12. Let's see if it is. All right, that's working. That's good. And we'll try our last one. 1 2 3 1 3 1 4 1 5 is 4. So it will return 4 for circle sequence of that. We'll construct it with that and get circle sequence sum should be 4. And it is. So with all of the examples working, let's give it a shot with our big our big string here. So copy that one out, and we'll say it will answer day 1 part 2 correctly. So we create that construction, and we'll say this get circle sequence sum should be 4 again, right? Definitely not 4. It gets 1080. So let's see if 1080 is the answer, and if I get a second star for the day. It is. So we did it right, and now we come back. We can fix our test. That's all working. Our commits are through, and we were able to build this in another, looks like 9 more commits to get part 2 done. Not too bad. So total of 17 commits for both parts of day 1. And with that, I'm done with day 1. Thank you for watching, and I hope you'll come back and join me for the next video. Bye.